everyone.
Grand Rising.
My name is Dr. Alice Reid, and I am the spiritual director here at Centers for Spiritual Living. I want to let you know that we have an opportunity for someone to serve and be hired as a part-time media specialist. Yeah, if you know anybody who does live streaming, works with cameras, and can pull it all together with the soundboard and the camera, we use YOLO Box. We would love to get to know them, so please have them look me up. Let's see, what else do I want to share with you? Of course, let's see. Happy Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day. I'm so glad to be here with you on this beautiful Sunday morning. We have a theme that we follow that is an annual theme. It's rising higher, growing deeper. And this month, our theme is raise your voice and open your heart. And today, we're talking about nurturing healthy relationships through healthy boundaries. So I just want to check in with everyone. Do you think it's a little ironic that we are talking about boundaries on Mother's Day? Anybody pick that up? Right, yeah. Boundaries on Mother's Day. Yeah, me too. So I asked my friend Al, also known as AI, to give me some funny one-liners to finish the sentence. Just because you gave me life doesn't mean you can go through my group chat and say, why do you guys swear so much? Call my boss sweetie during a Zoom call and ask if I'm being overworked. Walk through my apartment and whisper, it smells like bachelor in here, while you spray for bees. Submit a just-in-case application for me to grad school I never asked for. Direct message my ex with a peace offering meme and say, you were funny, come back. Get mad at me because I didn't post your picture first for Mother's Day. Yell I love you out the car window as I walk in for a job interview as a grown adult. Ask, why did you post more photos of me? People probably think I'm dead. A couple more here. Refer to my dating life as your favorite reality show. Bring Tupperware to my friend's wedding in case there's leftovers. Post on Facebook, my baby's single and has great credit. And finally, refuse to knock, but loudly announce as you walk through the door, I'm walking in with judgment. Oh my, yes, Mother's Day and boundaries, what a fun combination. And for many of us, Mother's Day evokes a wide spectrum of emotions, right? Oftentimes there's gratitude and joy, sometimes there's grief and tension, and that just means that some of us were mothered well, and some of us maybe not so much. And some of us, we may be missing our mother this time of year. My mother made her transition 2 weeks before I was moving to the West Coast. And it was a little untimely. I thought she was kind of young. I was moving across the country far away from my family. I was switching jobs. I had divorced a year ago, so I kind of lost my mother-in-law as well because my ex remarried right away. So you know, there was a real shift for me in how I held Mother's Day, because I didn't really see Mother's Day as it was important for me to be acknowledged. It was about acknowledging my own mother and the mothers in my life. And so when Mother's Day comes around, I have a little bit of a different experience than I used to. And so I acknowledge all of you who may be experiencing something other than Happy Mother's Day. Right. when she opened our time here together, that there are so many ways that we nurture life. You know, we could have, I know many of us have fur babies, right, that you're mothers to, absolutely. And, you know, some of us have children and some of us can't have children. There's all kinds of ways that we can experience this day, and that is like prime to our philosophy, because this philosophy really helps us to know that we have the opportunity to hold things in a way that is healthy for us, that is supportive to us, and that doesn't mean that if you are, you know, I have a dear friend who lost her mother a couple of months ago, and I was checking in with her because this is her first Mother's Day without her mom, and so it doesn't mean that holding things in a healthy way doesn't mean that we don't feel the grief or the feelings. It just means that we're conscious and mindful with how we are feeling. So, what do boundaries have to do with the spiritual philosophy we call science of mind? Our founder, Ernest Holmes, he didn't really talk about self-care and boundaries too much in the textbook. If you look through the Science of Mind textbook or many of his other books that he's authored, not a lot of stuff there about boundaries. I did look up nurturing, right, as I have this concordance that I can look up words, and I looked up nurturing, and the only place I could find that was where he was talking about a health condition, a tumor, and that the law did not nurture the condition. But so I kind of gave up on trying to find a Holmes quote around this, but I did see a lot of Holmes, and I've read before, where Ernest Holmes talks about the divine feminine. And he couches the divine feminine as a receptive energy. It is this idea we talk about, and I say often, maybe too much for some of you, that everything's created twice. First in consciousness and then in form, that we create through our thoughts. And so Holmes talked about this idea of the divine feminine in conjunction with our idea of spiritual law, in conjunction with that place of working with our subconscious, the subjective, the repository for all thought and beliefs that we either hold personally or collectively. And while this may sound kind of passive to you, it's not passive at all. This divine energy, this divine feminine energy that we work with the creative process that receives our beliefs and then creates out of it. So it is not passive, but it is something that actually moves thought into form. Moves thought into form, and so I think that's pretty powerful. And, you know, if I were to look at the whole idea of mothering, you look at nature, whether you're looking at the animal kingdom or you're looking at plant life, there is something that moves through life to recreate itself, either as a human being, as another plant life, as an animal. That is how the creative process works. It expresses itself as an individuated part of itself. And that's kind of like, you know, if you have some brothers and sisters or you have a couple of kids, you know, unless they're identical twins, they're different, right? My sister and I, my baby sister is like 4 inches taller than I am. What gives? I'm supposed to be the big sister, right? So what I'm just talking about here is this idea that life recreates itself. It doesn't necessarily duplicate itself, but it recreates itself in an individuated way through the form that we give it, through our thoughts and our intentions. Now, as I was thinking about boundaries and healthy boundaries, I was reminded of Emma Curtis Hopkins, and she's known as the mother of New Thought. So what a perfect day to bring her into our discussion and contemplation today. And so if you're not familiar with the New Thought and its, I'll call it the family tree. Emma Curtis Hopkins taught the founder of Unity, the Unity movement. She taught the founder of, which was Charles Fillmore. She taught Ernest Holmes. She taught the Nona sisters who started Divine Science. And so she really did serve as this mother of New Thought. And so she is famous for saying, stand guard at the portal of your mind. Stand guard at the portal of your mind. And so she's talking about a boundary here, but what she means by this is to be present with your mind. Not to necessarily, it isn't about separating ourselves from others. It isn't about pushing other people away, but it's about taking some responsibility and checking in with ourselves and being mindful with ourselves about what we're thinking and what we are receiving as reality, what we're receiving as truth for ourselves, because as we come to understand certain things, they tend to deposit themselves in at that level of the unconscious, and then come back to the creative process again. We're always interacting with it in that way. Reverend Sonia Hart, who helped to outline this topic this month, writes, boundaries extend beyond the physical realm. They also involve mental and emotional spaces, shaping the thoughts we allow into our subconscious. Healthy thought boundaries enable us to cultivate clarity and alignment in our intentions with our highest good. And since we're interconnected, setting these boundaries is as much an internal practice as an external practice. So she's talking about this idea that, which I love, is there's no private good. When you take care of your own mental and spiritual self, you are contributing to the collective. There's this collective oneness that we are all interacting with all the time, that we're all part of, that it's like as close as our breath. It is our breath. And so when we are cultivating and taking care of and minding our thoughts, we are indeed doing something that's really healthy for ourselves and each other. And there's a delicate balance with setting these boundaries, because we don't want to cross over into othering. One of my favorite stories is about a New Thought author who worked with Joel Goldsmith, another New Thought giant who started The Infinite Way. And Walter told the story about walking in. He was sort of the COO, right? So he was always handling the problems and dealing with the day-to-day. And Walter talked about he had some crisis du jour that came up, and he kind of marched into Joel Goldsmith's office, and Joel stood there and he said, "Stop! You are polluting my consciousness." Now that kind of seems like othering, right? I actually had the pleasure of hearing Walter speak in person, and he talked about how it was a little assertive, but he understood that Joel was just holding space within himself, and so he was doing exactly what I'm talking about. He was minding his mind, he was minding his thoughts, he was minding the environment that he was in. And so we want to be careful and intentional about creating a safe space for ourselves. And that's what boundaries are about. Vulnerability expert and guru, Brene Brown, you knew I was going to say it as soon as I said that. Brene Brown, she writes about boundaries. There are always boundaries, even in the wilderness. When we commit to getting closer, we're committing to eventually experiencing real face-to-face conflict. Whether it's over dinner, at work, in the grocery store line, in person, conflict is always hard and uncomfortable. And when it comes to family, it's even harder and more painful. If your family is anything like mine, she writes, you've been required to summon love and decency in the face of emotions that range from minor frustration to rage. So I'm noticing, as I think about boundaries, that we have an opportunity to yet again bring our spiritual practice into the noosphere, if you will, of our thought life, and begin to work with mindfulness and affirmations and meditation and prayer that all help to cultivate a healthy spiritual grounding for boundaries. I have the pleasure of taking a Zoom class with a bunch of Protestant clergy. It's kind of fun. I'm like the only one who's not a Methodist minister in this group. And they're studying, it's a group called Living the Question. I encourage you to Google Living the Question. It is a really powerful group that really looks at conventional, traditional spiritual wisdom and tries to bust it loose from all the stuff we add to it, to really get to the source and to the meat of what many of the masters have taught, especially Jesus of Nazareth. And so we were talking about a particular issue, and one of the Protestant ministers shared that she's holding an idea, and I love this. She says she refuses to hate her neighbors. Refuses to hate her neighbors. And of course she's referencing that Bible quote of love thy neighbor as thyself. And she holds this strong intention while setting boundaries for herself in her relationships. And of course, she, like many of us, find that there's always somebody who feels very differently than her. You know, she says, and then I just think they say something stupid, and I have to remind myself, I refuse to hate my neighbor. I refuse to hate my neighbor. That is a beautiful tenet for me to hold, especially when I'm in disagreement or conflict with somebody. And so as we look at these places where we find ourselves needing to set boundaries, that's not just with our relationships with each other. My sister recently shared with me, she had this little insight, this brainstorm. She stopped getting her news online and she resubscribed to the newspaper. And she set this boundary for herself so that instead of getting the, I don't know about you, but do you feel like one of those movies where the guy gets shot 100 times? Like she stopped getting bombarded by news, and now she can take it in a way that's calm, in a way that's mindful, where she can integrate what she's reading, she can think about it, she can be more contemplative. And so that's another way that we can set a boundary for ourselves. It's not just with the people, it's also with the places we find our mind moving to. I certainly have I definitely have a social media issue. And so much so that I took my Facebook icon on my iPhone and I moved it and hid it in a place so that I'd have to really be intentional when I opened Facebook. and that was setting a boundary for myself. Boundary setting is really a spiritual practice. It's an opportunity for us to be mindful in our relationships and to think about what's ours and what's not ours. And my invitation to you is that when you think about boundaries, not to think of it as a barrier, but a bridge. Think about the purpose that a bridge gives you. Bridge helps you to define yourself and the person that you're wanting to connect with. But you've got a little space, right? You've got a little space, and that's what the boundary holds for you as you are creating these healthy connections and relationships. Boundaries will help you to, well, the thing that comes to mind is when my kids were, they were teenagers, and I remember, being that, mother who did everything. I'm sure none of you ever had that experience, either from your mother or yourself. And I remember it occurred to me, and I was in this teaching, I have trained them to treat me this way. I have no boundaries because I'm going to fix everything for them. And so creating a gentle boundary where I could recast, sometimes it's hard not to see our kids as toddlers, right? as demonstrated by that list I read a little earlier. And so to be able to reframe the relationship and to recognize that as I once heard, God has no grandchildren. God has no grandchildren. Like as a mother, I am there for a short time to help them to move from the infancy where they can't take care of themselves to growing into capable adults. And then my job is done. And so the boundary that I set actually creates a healthier relationship between me and my children. And that works in partnerships with a spouse, that works in office relationships with people, that works with neighbors. Yeah. So see boundary setting as something that's healthy for you and healthy for everyone else, and to help us be more mindful in our relationships as we move forward. Thank you very much. And so on this beautiful Sunday morning, let's go ahead and do spiritual mind treatment. We also know this as affirmative prayer, and so I invite you to close your eyes and take this prayer as your own. As we allow our awareness to rise up to the allness of spirit, that there is a spirit that is moving in as and through all life, that it is infinite. It is the infinite one reality. It recreates itself billions of different ways, and yet it is one. So in this moment, as we recall, as we reveal, as we bring our awareness to this highest understanding, we know that we are it. It is expressing itself. It is guiding itself all over the place. It is recreating life by means of our relationships, by means of the way we live our lives, by the means of the way we walk the planet. And so know with me today that indeed there is a mother energy, a divine feminine that is moving in as and through each one. And it is the receiver of this amazing power that wants to experience itself by giving of itself so completely. And so within each one of us, we receive that highest understanding. We allow ourselves to be that place where God shows up. We allow ourselves to be one with the Creator as we create, as we express, as we demonstrate. And so it is with great joy that I know this highest truth, that I know that each of us are mothers of creation, that we have the ability to use that divine feminine energy to create in so many beautiful and powerful ways. And that as we walk through this week, we just hold that highest truth. We set healthy boundaries that respect ourselves and each other. That we refuse to hate our neighbors, for our neighbors and each one are one. So instead we choose to respond with love, a love that is so healthy it knows how to take care of us and the people around us in equal measure. And it is with gratitude that we do this, knowing that God is walking the planet by means of us each and every moment. So we give great thanks for this. We give great thanks for all the mothers. We give great thanks for all of creation. And we simply let this go. And together we say, and so it is.